Good evening, everyone. We still have about a minute, maybe 90 seconds before we officially start. So if you would, go ahead and place your name and campus in the chat. Ensure that your name on the screen shows how it appears on Fortis's roster. So just make sure that your first and your last name is correct. We should start in about 45 seconds. All right. Good evening to everyone. Hopefully, everyone is doing well, and welcome to week one of leadership. Again, make sure that you place your name and your campus in the chat. Ensure that your name on the screen matches how it appears on the roster. A lot of times when we log in with different devices, it will log us in with that device name. So just make sure you make that change. And this is for all of your online interactions. Make sure that you're putting your name and campus in the chat and also making sure that your name is spelled correctly. You have a first and a last name. Just as a reminder, all of these sessions are recorded. We do post the sessions in the classroom so that you can refer back to them. But in addition to that, the attendance administrators that go back through these recordings to ensure that we have adhered to the college's policies. So for one, ensure that you're in view of the camera, making sure that your camera is not pointing toward the ceiling and that you're not in a place that's not going to violate HIPAA. So just make sure that you're in, your house or room somewhere. As long as you're not in a facility, you shouldn't be at work. You shouldn't be in a vehicle. You shouldn't be in the doctor's office, sitting in the corner. So just make sure that none of these things apply to you. In the event that it does, send me a note. You will need to log off because we don't want to violate HIPAA by being in these places. So make sure that you're in a place that is appropriate. So I think everyone is in now. Let me check the waiting room here. I think we have everyone in. Again, good evening and welcome. And I'll do that disclaimer every time. Make sure that you're on camera. In the event that you have to walk away from the camera for any reason, put a message in the chat to myself. Take the time. I think with this new Zoom, you have to go in and find the person, but please take the time to find me so that you won't send your information to everyone on the Zoom. So you have to go in, you click the little three dots, and you can select the person. And that's what it looks like on my screen, where you can actually select the person that you want the message to go to. So if there's an event, an issue, anything that's going on in the background, if you need to just step away to use the restroom or something, place a message in the chat to myself so that I will know why you're not in front of the camera. And also remember, it's twofold. This recording, once the attendance administrator looks at it and they see that you're off camera for a certain amount of time, they can refer to the chat and say, okay, well, this is where this person is. So again, welcome to leadership. I am Dr. Morton Ford. Let's go ahead and get started with our orientation PowerPoint. I'm going to share my screen here. And then this PowerPoint, and of course, all recordings will be shared with you in the course shell so that you can refer to them. All right, let's do a slideshow from the beginning. Let's minimize us over here. So welcome to the July term. Uh-oh. I already getting stuck. Nope, it's working. All right. So what is online learning? It's essentially the same thing as the brick and mortar learning. We're just given the opportunity to not be in each other's physical space at the same time, but we still have our discussions. We still have our exams, our quizzes. It's essentially the same. We are just not in the same physical space. So online learning means using your computer and your internet assets anytime. This is another thing too. In the event that you lose connectivity or there's something going on with your internet, make sure you put a message in the chat to myself. So we'll have that documentation as well. With all the storms that are popping up, the connectivity sometimes is iffy. But please put a message in the chat and or send an email to communicate if something's going wrong with your internet. So we do have interactions. You will be in groups. As a matter of fact, before the class is over, we will open up the little group rooms. We'll let you in and you'll do some discussion. And then you'll come back and we'll discuss whole group. So online learning, like I said, is the same as brick and mortar. The only thing is we're not in that same physical space, but we're in that same space when we do our whole group and when we do our smaller groups. So we provide feedback. The online courses include homework assignments, and we'll get more specific in the as this PowerPoint goes on about the amount, the percentage that the homework weight carries. We do have learning activities. We have quizzes and exams. We have 5 quizzes and we have 3 exams. So I'm going to probably say this more than one time, but for those of you that are taking more than one class, go ahead and make a note, do a reminder. For the most part, that first exam, they're in that same week. They're in week 4. So just make a note of that so that you can adjust yourselves and plan accordingly, so that you can cover all of your content and be successful in all of the courses that you're enrolled in. When we don't have an exam, we have a quiz the next week. So the first quiz will start next week, and then it'll go quiz, and then we'll have our exams. So they alternate. So, of course, you are responsible to complete the required coursework every week. And then, of course, you are in this space with students that are from other campuses. So just keep in mind that you're in space, in this class with other students from other campuses. For example, their ATI is coming up pretty quick. I want to say it's next week for those that are on the Columbus campus. So there are some variations with activities that are campus specific. We have the HESI. Your HESI exam is specific to your campus. So you do want to keep that in mind as you're listening to announcements, as you're receiving communications from your campuses, and some of your other classmates might not mention it because it might not apply to them because it doesn't apply to their campus. So make sure that you're making note of the things that are specific for you in your campus because you don't want to miss it. Okay, so I am your first line of contact. I'm available via email, Canvas mail, and via phone. In addition, when we talk about this email here, we're talking about Outlook. So if you have not subscribed to Outlook, you should have Outlook as part of your package. If you have not had Outlook thus far, you need to submit a help desk ticket because you're missing communications, because everyone doesn't have access to your Canvas mail because Canvas is within your course. So you may be missing communications from your campus deans and others because you don't have that Outlook mail. So make sure if you don't have that Outlook mail, submit a help desk ticket. Put that on your to-do list. Okay, so don't be afraid of the feedback regarding, if you don't understand the concept, please reach out via one of these ways and say, hey, don't really understand that concept, but make sure you've done all the things to prepare and gain understanding. Reach out and then we can sit and talk. We can do one-on-one over the phone. We can do via Zoom, or in that email, you can say, hey, I understand this about the concept, but I still have these questions about the concept. So don't not understand a concept and just be hanging out there. Please communicate that so you can gain clarity. Take ownership of you being successful in this course. And that is, no one knows everything. And sometimes it takes hearing things different ways. That's why I like for you all to get together in the small groups and we come back in the whole group. And that's why I like for you all to respond, because sometimes it takes that in order for you to gain understanding, a better understanding of what the concept is. So of course we'll provide the feedback. Is most of the times we place that when you turn in your assignments, we put it in the little comment section So make sure if you see a comment there, make sure that you're reading it. A lot of times too, we use that as if you need to go back and do something or just take another look at that assignment is communicated there as well. Remember, the online course is a professional setting. Communication is to be respectful at all times. Even if we disagree, still maintain composure, be professional, communicate whatever it is that you need to communicate in a respectful manner. Okay, so there's a contact information for all of your courses, and we'll look at it. There's a tab that says about your instructor. If you forget what our email is, what our name is, there's a tab. Go to about your instructor. Once you click that, you can see all of our contact information. And also Dean Brown's information is there as well. So you'll have access to this PowerPoint. In addition to that, if you need to contact us later on, then you can go to the About Your Instructor tab that's in each of your courses. And it has that contact information there as well. The course lead is Dr. Mary Tenza. If there's an issue or a concern or just anything that we need to gain more understanding or get some more guidance on, I will ask you to include Dr. Mary Tenza in the email because she is the course lead and she can assist us in whatever the next steps are or the best next steps, and also to assist us in identifying if there's more than one next step that we can take or different solutions if there's an issue. For continued concerns on your campus courses or your campus components, this is SIMS, lab, and clinical, your campus instructors are going to be your first line of contact, and then your campus deans. So you have all of us, you have your village, you have me, you have Dr. Tenza, which is the course lead, Dean Brown, which is the online dean. Then each of you have a campus dean that's specific to your campus, and then you have your campus instructors as well. Now, and we'll mention this plenty of times prior to week 11. Week 11 is the HESI, but your campus deans is who's going to assist you in scheduling and making sure you register for those HESI. So you do need to know who those persons are. So make sure put that on your to-do list if you don't know who your campus dean is. And most campuses, they have a assistant as well. So just make sure that you identify who they are and then their methods of communication. So while we're communicating, like I say, you'll be in whole group, we'll be in small groups. I like to do a thing if we have time to spin a wheel, and then just whoever the wheel lands on is who responds. And so this is a safe space. So we want to always be courteous. Even if you have say something that's incorrect, we're here, we got you, we're your village, and we're gonna, help you along the way. But we always want to be courteous and positive and be respectful in our responses. Be mindful of how you express humorous or emotional statements. We just want to stick to what the topics are and what we're talking about. Every now and then, we'll get off topic, but because that can sometimes lead to miscommunication, things are said or misinterpreted. And then here we go with the snowball effect. So we want to be mindful of trying to be funny because everything is not funny to everyone. So let's make sure our comments are relevant, specific to the discussion or the concept that we're actually talking about. We do want to be considerate of others and express feelings and, just be mindful of others' perspectives. We don't want to use slang. We want to use proper language because remember, different things with slang, different things mean different things to different people. So if we stay on the side of talking about the concepts and using that proper language, then there won't be any confusion. You all know, do not type messages in all caps. This gives the impression of yelling. And even when you're communicating, you're creating an email and you're sending it to myself, the course lead, you even may be frustrated, but you want to still communicate in that respectful manner. Something may be going on. You may be having a crisis or something in your family or with a loved one or with yourself, but still try to communicate respectfully and make sure you're communicating, clearly on what's really going on and what the issue is so that we can identify solutions, things that we can do to assist, because that's what we're here for. You do have specific start times and end times. I don't believe we have any courses that are going to overlap. We will know here before the week is out. But I think our course is fine. In the past, we've had classes that as soon as that class ended at 7:59, the other class started at 8 o'clock. And so, but know that all your classes, as they're scheduled on your schedule, has a specific day with a start time and an end time. We do have breaks within our class. And so if we depends on where we place our breaks at, then our end time may be not at the specific course time, but we still have the correct amount of seat time. We went over all the content, but it just depends on where we place our breaks at. Usually we take them at the top of every hour, like we started at 7:30 or 8:30 Eastern time, and our first break would be at 9:30 or 8:30 Central time. And then we have a total of 25 minutes. So usually students like to leave that last 15 minutes on the bottom of the hour. Just go ahead and get all the content in, and then we actually end at that top of that hour. We're not ending early because we haven't taken that recommended break. So we put that break toward the end. So all of these live sessions, they're mandatory. We only meet one day a week. In the event that you have to miss, remember, one absence equals 7 days because we only meet one day a week. So just make sure that you have all your documentation and everything to provide support as to why you were absent. Course activities can include discussion questions. I think we have 3, no more than 4 discussion questions. And the discussion questions, they help you interact with each other, begin to start that professional conversation to see how others think about concepts. And also, a lot of times it sparks interest. We're like, well, never thought of it that way. So the discussion questions, you want to add more than, your comments should be more than, oh, I agree with that. Oh, that was nice. So you do want to add some substance, include, some examples or some shared experiences that validates why you do agree or why you disagree. We do have papers, case studies, and of course we talked about the quizzes and the exams. And then again, another thing just came to me on week 10. If you're taking more than one course, usually week 10 is that other week that you will have multiple exams. And then of course, HESI week, it depends on your campus. So go ahead and just be putting a reminder to have those conversations so you'll know and you can plan accordingly. Depends on, especially if you have more than one course. So discussion boards, and this is campus-wide, requires initial posting, that first posting, by midnight on that Wednesday. Then you have until midnight on Sunday to respond to 2 peers. Due dates are according to the syllabus week and posted in the course share. But just know that Wednesday, I need to post my first time. And then I need to respond to my coworkers, at least 2 of them, a minimum of 2. You can respond to more by that Sunday. And I'm looking in the chat. I don't see any questions or comments. So I'm just going to keep on going. So if you do have any questions or comments, feel free to ask. Academic integrity. So academic integrity, all incidences of academic dishonesty and violations of academic integrity will be disciplined. Such acts, of course, we don't have everything listed on this slide, but they can include cheating, plagiarism. If you have attended another college, you've taken this course more than one time, you have completed a very similar assignment, and that assignment had to go through Turnitin, there is such a thing as plagiarizing yourself. So make sure that you are rewording, rephrasing if you turned in a similar or the same assignment. Because what Turnitin is going to do is it gives you that percentage. And then if that percentage is above, I want to say we said 25 to 35%, then it's going to look like you plagiarized. So again, just make sure that you're using references, making sure that you're properly citing inside of your paper. you know, and then it's not good enough just to have your references on the reference page, but the information that's in the inside of that paper, make sure you do those in paper references. Make sure that you cite any work which is not original to the student. Copying the work of others, um, just don't do it, because what'll happen is you're going to copy and paste someone's name. It happens. So you would think, well, who would do that? I'm sure they didn't do it intentionally, but they actually copied the person's name as well. And then allowing another student to copy from them. So all these are ways of plagiarizing. So again, if you have submitted the same assignment or a similar assignment, if you were at another college or in another class that the assignments were kind of sort of alike, you want to make sure that you take the time to go back and, you know, rewrite that, because what's going to happen is your plagiarism score is going to be high. Unauthorized use of notes or materials in exams, including talking to other students. Make sure that you are not recording, taking pictures of exams and quizzes and things like that. That's unauthorized use of notes. You don't have permission to take pictures and post things. So that will be noted on your file. Of course, campus administration, your deans and all of that, that will be brought to their attention. You don't want to forge or alter any assignments. Unpermitted collaboration, giving or receiving aid on a take-home exam or other academic assignment under circumstances in which a reasonable person should have known that such aid was not permitted. Well, I just thought it was okay. A reasonable person should have known that it was not permitted. Allowing others to copy and use your work as their own. Please don't do that. Because what happens is, in the end, they end up saying, well, I would have did better if I just would have did my own work. Well, what do you mean you would have just did your own work? And that's when all the beans are spilled. So do not allow that. Providing answers from graded assignments to others and then submitting these AI generated assignments. Please don't do it, you all. Don't do it. And we're going to talk about going to those sites here shortly as well. The American Nurses Association Code of Ethics for Nurses. You know, what is that right thing to do? And it's an honor system. The Code of Ethics serves the following purposes. You know, it's a succinct statement of ethical values, our obligations, the things that we have a duty to do. You know, what is the right thing? It's an expression of nurses' own understanding of its commitment to society. Nursing is a calling. It's a lot of work. You know, it's a lot of moving parts. We're life learners. You know, no one knows everything. We're always, as things are advancing, as we are understanding that we need to include all and think about all the parts of a person. You know, things are advancing. So it's a lot. But it's a calling, and we're learning every day, and it's a beautiful thing. So here we go. Sites that promote cheating. Of course, all of them will not be listed here. You cannot submit AI generated assignments. Okay, let me read this whole slide from the top to the bottom. Okay, sites that promote cheating. Use of these sites do not promote honor, ethics, or integrity. These sites are being monitored. This is real. This is not just a slide, you all. Someone monitors it. So don't even click around and say, ooh, let me just see what they're doing on Course Hero. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because whoever monitors that, your name will come up on the list. Being found on these sites will place you on a heightened monitoring of your work for academic integrity violations. Referencing these sites or submitting work found on these sites will result in a 0 for the assignment. This may be enough for you to fail the course. A second incident involving these sites will result in the course failure. Utilizing these sites, posting and downloading will put you at risk of being dismissed from the program. Campus and your upper administration will be involved. If the sites or the resources are not listed in the course shell, just stay away from them, especially these sites that we know. And then you cannot submit AI generated assignments. and it's a way to tell whether or not it's AI generated. So just stay away from it. But we're going to start early enough and plan and revise things as we need to. So a late work policy. So of course, you all, every point matters. We want all of our points. So you want to complete all of our assignments to the best of your ability, complete it. Look at your rubrics before you turn them in. Grade yourself. Rubric point A says, I don't know, 3 sentences about apples. Look at your finished product. I have 3 sentences about apples. If I do not, please don't turn that in. Go back and rework it. Turn it in to its completeness. Late work policy. So late work is only accepted with prior approval from the instructor. Have to contact the instructor if you're going to be late. So make sure you send an email. Just go to about your instructor. If you forgot what the email is for that instructor, look on your, we're gonna look at it here in just a moment, about the instructor tab. Find our email, send a message. Something's going on. You know, I'm gonna have to turn this in late. Now you have up until those 7 days. And then up until that 7 days, you will just receive that 10% deduction. Of course, you know, it's going to be graded according to the rubric, but you will receive that 10% deduction. So if you completed every task, every point on that assignment, complete, beautiful, everything is there, and we'll just say that assignment was worth 100 points. The highest that you would make on that assignment would be a 90. You couldn't get the 100 points because you communicate and say, hey, it looks like I'm going to turn this assignment in late. You know, we go back and forth, making sure that, you know, I understand what you're talking about, and you get permission to go ahead and turn it in late. Within that 1 to 7 day window, everything is perfect. You would have had 100, but because it was late, the highest that you can receive was a 90 because you get that 10% deduction. So 8 or more days will result in a 0 for the assignment. So, and a lot of times, if an assignment is due, even if you have permission, you've communicated and we've said, yes, you can turn that assignment in late. Most of the time, we'll go ahead and put a 0 in the grade book, and it serves as a reminder. Because if you see that there, it'll prompt you. We found that it prompts you to go ahead and just get that done way before that 7 day mark. And because we don't want you to run close to that 7, beyond that 7th day, because then we can't grade it at all. Okay. So attendance will only be recorded during your assigned live session time. Let me think. We've had some storms here. I know one time we ended up with, I think, a class on a weekend or something, but that's just extreme circumstances. Otherwise, you have to attend the class that you are scheduled for. So be thinking about, I know this class, there are 3 of us, 3 or 4 of us. It's offered on different days of the week and at different times. So be thinking about it after we get a log off tonight. For sure, by tomorrow, D Brown usually posts a message in the course shells and ask if, you know, gives you the opportunity to change your schedule. So make sure that you look at everything, work, school, play, family, all of your calendars and your things that you have to get done, and see if your classes, the day and time matches best for you. And if not, just get ready whenever she makes that posting to send that information in, but also have an idea of which class on which day of the week would be a better fit for you. But attendance, it will only be recorded during your assigned live session time. Attendance is taken by the instructor during the live session. So let me go back here. Some campuses will have ATI throughout the term. So of course, you'll be marked absent for the course, but in the comment section, on campus, attended ATI, because ATI is that entire day. I want to say it's like 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. And so, of course, you did not attend that class on that live session, but we do add the comment that you had that mandatory ATI session at your campus. And not all campuses have that. That's campus specific. And so, but otherwise, you're expected to be in your courses or whatever day and time that they're listed. Like I said, I know this course is offered on Mondays and Fridays, Because when we take our exams, we have to always wait until that Friday to look in to get our scores. I'm just checking the chat just to make sure. So yes, if you have not placed your name in campus in the chat yet, make sure you do that. Okay, make sure you do that. Okay, so let's go back to attendance here. So attendance is taken by the instructor during the live session. Of course, Zoom timestamps everything. So if you make it to that waiting room, you're on time, you're fine. Sometimes there's a little delay and you get into the main course, but that's fine. As long as you're in that waiting room, by the correct time. To be counted as present in the class, students must sign in with your full name. Make sure that your first and last name is on that screen. Many times, as I mentioned before, these devices will log in as themselves. So we have to go in and change and put our name on the screen. In addition to that, make sure your name, your first and your last name, matches what it says on the roster. If you're going through a name change and it has not officially taken place on the roster, sign in with however it matches the roster. Because if we turn it in, we know it's you, but then whoever's checking the attendance is going to ding it or is going to flag it because it doesn't match what's on the roster. So you do want to be on camera the whole time. Make sure the camera is not pointed towards the ceiling. Adjust yourselves. Anyone at work, if you're driving or if you're in a healthcare setting, I mentioned this earlier, hospital room, doctor's office, urgent care center, please remove yourself from the session. Please don't log in. Just go ahead and send a message and say, hey, you got whatever's going on, because you're not going to be counted present. Never mind, you're going to more than likely be violating HIPAA. We don't want to do that before we get started. So we know things come up. Just document it, send an email. We'd rather have you here, but if you are driving, you're not safe. If you're at work, you're not safe. You're at work, and so if you're in a healthcare setting, we don't want to violate HIPAA. Those around you may be in the room, in the sitting area, and we're seeing and hearing, we may not hear them outright, but once the recording is shared, people can zoom in and say, oh, Shalisha was at the urgent care center and I saw Mary sitting there too. So we violated HIPAA. There we go. 1-800 lawyer. So again, if something comes up, get your rest, get your treatment. If you're at the doctor's office or the hospital room, go ahead and send that email out. I cannot attend. Have your supportive documentation to support why you're not in class that day. Please don't do it, because once we go back through these recordings, it's going to be there. It's going to show where you're at. And a lot of times, if I see that if your camera's positioned incorrectly and I can't really see you, you'll be asking the chat to, come on the camera or reposition yourselves. In the event that this does not happen, you will be removed from the session. Remember, Zooms are timestamped. Faculty will verify students' time in class by reviewing the login and logout times on Zoom. Attendance missed will be recorded in 15-minute increments, you all. What in the world does that mean? If I'm late for class 1 minute, guess what happens? I get docked 15 whole minutes. If I'm late for class 5 minutes, it equals 15 minutes. So hold that thought. Anyone without posting attendance, this means if you're missing 2 classes, that's 14 days. Because remember, we only meet 1 day a week. So 1 absence equals 7 days. 2 equals 14 days. Will be dropped from the course without notification. There is no makeup for missed attendance. I think this next slide is going to go into these 15-minute increments. Over time, you all, that 15-minute increments, it can add up and it can actually cause a person to fail or drop a whole letter grade. So yes, it is important that you think about which course, and this is not just this course, but all of your classes, making sure that they are correct, correct, a good fit for you, day and time. Okay. Attendance is taken daily in the class by the instructor and turned over to the registrar before the end of the class day. So We, we download the login, we upload the video recording. Early departures, tardies, and class cuts will be recorded in quarter-hour increments. So a period of less than 15 minutes will be counted as a quarter hour of an absence. 1 minute equals 15 minutes. 5 minutes equals 15 minutes. Attendance records are maintained by the registrar as part of the student's permanent academic record. Students with chronic absenteeism in excess of 20% of the scheduled hours for a course may receive a failing or reduced grade for the course. So again, it does matter. Usually the Zooms are open at least 5 minutes prior to start time. So log in, get yourself situated, go run to the restroom and all of that. So once class starts, you're there. So usually all of us, we usually start at least 5 minutes prior to start time. Okay, here we go again. Students who are absent more than 20% of the scheduled time will receive a full letter grade deduction at the end of the term. Okay, what in the world does that mean? I have an A, but because I've been absent more than 20% of the scheduled time, my grade automatically drops to a B. The online office will pull attendance weekly. The student who is at 5% of the scheduled time absent will receive an email through Campus View notifying them of such. A student who is at 10% will be required to meet with the instructor and more than likely your campus dean. And then for the 15% of the scheduled time absent, you'll be required to meet with your campus administration. The level of intervention will be reliant upon the amount of time missed, and a student may not receive all levels of warnings prior to missing the 20%. So you might not get an email each time. So it's still up to you to know how late you're being for class, how many times, how many absences, and all of that. So hopefully we won't have any of that. And in the event that you do, please communicate. Have your documentation as what's going on, is why you're not showing up on time. Okay, 7 key steps to success. Review the work that is due each week. And that just gives you an idea of like, okay, what are we doing this week? And also gives you an idea of, wait a minute, I think I have a question about that because I don't really understand that assignment. Or I read the reading assignment and I do not understand 2 concepts. So this helps you go ahead and identify. Go ahead and send an email. Hey, been looking at my upcoming work for the week, went through my reading assignments, and I'm just not really clear on these 2 concepts. So we can go ahead and start that conversation. So don't wait until class time especially if you know you have a question. Go ahead and send that email so we can go ahead and gain some clarity and get some understanding. So complete their interactive lessons each week. Attend the live sessions weekly to get a better understanding of the concepts. Got to attend the live sessions. They're mandatory unless you have the ATIs and those Kaplans on your campus. And you should know by now if you have, at least by the end of the week, you will know if you have those ATIs and Kaplans. I want to say one campus actually starts tomorrow or next week with the ATIs, but not all campuses have that. Carefully read the directions and the rubrics to all assignments before starting them. The direction says have a cover page. It says have a reference page. It says have 300 word count. I'm just throwing some things out, but go ahead and grade that assignment before you turn it in. Look at that rubric that you follow all of the directions. Is everything there so that you can gain all of your points? Is it completed correctly? You want to complete all assignments, your papers, and we'll talk about that week 6 paper here. We don't do CJ Sims in this course. Some of the other courses we use CJ Sims. NCLEX questions. Commit to not turning in a score less than 78%. Every point matters. Remember with the NCLEX, and there's a whole slide on this, you can turn in that highest score. You can do the correct amount of questions that's required, and then turn in that highest score. Do your discussion boards, read your classmates' comments, see if you agree and disagree. You know, why do you agree? What content, what background, what information do you have that support why you agree? All of those things will help you gain a better understanding. And we know those next gen questions that select all that apply. These different things here, all of these steps, this helps you to solidify your understanding, and then also helps you to identify, hey, I don't really understand this concept. And that's when you reach out. You do want to study for and complete your quizzes and exams. Okay, you want to log in to class 4 to 5 times a week to stay connected and engaged. Remember that initial post is on that Wednesday, and then by that Sunday, you have to do respond to a minimum of at least 2 peers. And so, usually on that Sunday, we post that welcome to week, that whatever that week is information. So if you're doing all of that, you're logging in at a minimum, anyways, 4 to 5 times. But just make sure that you're logging in. We try to get all the announcements at that on that first day of the week, but sometimes things pop in, pop up. Um, and so, like I say, Dean Brown may post something. I do know usually they do post that asking if you need to change a day or time of week for a course. So logging in helps you to not miss anything. You want to review those course announcements throughout the week. Go back and reread it. Go back and rewatch the last week's recording. Go back and look at those live exam reviews. You do want to submit all assignments on the week when they are due, including your discussions, because remember those assignments, they have a due date. If they're late, hopefully you've requested permission and you communicated why it's going to be late, because if not, that's an automatic 0. Then if you communicate it, you still have to turn it in between that 1 to 7 day. Because if not, then that's a 0. So make sure you just submit all the assignments on time, because if you have perfect work, you gave it your best, and you meet all the bullet points, you want your 100 points. So, but in the event, that late work policy is there, so keep that in mind. Towards the end of the week, review assignments for the next week. And of course, remember, you can always turn assignments early. Go ahead and get them off your to-do list. But for sure, do not procrastinate. Procrastination is not our friend, you all. Ask me, I've tried it. It doesn't work. It's no good. So go ahead and plan. We have a couple of slides here coming up. It has a paper calendar, a electronic calendar. And so if you need both, just get whatever you need. That's going to help you stay on track. I'm just checking the chat. Okay. Keep in contact with me, who are all with all of your courses with your instructors. Make sure you have that reliable internet connection. Like I say, when the weather comes, it does this thing. There's nothing we can do about that other than communicate, hey, internet problem, connectivity issue. You want to maintain a schedule for completing your schoolwork. If you're off on Tuesdays, I know that initial post is not really due until that Wednesday, but if you can go ahead and get those things done on that Tuesday when you're off, you don't have many obligations on that day, just go ahead and get it done. You want to identify a quiet place, free from distractions, to do your work. Believe it or not, having the TV on, the radio on, we push through, but those things really do distract us and they keep us from doing our best. Now, we'll talk about this in another couple of slides, but on exam days, make sure you have that quiet place that's free from distractions. In the event that you think that quiet place needs to be on campus, you will need that 72-hour notice, and that's fine if that's what you need. One student had a shit 2 dogs, but one of the dogs just would never be still. So she tried the first exam, second exam, nope, I need to get a dog sitter. I need to take these exams on campus. So what happens with that? You send an email to your campus dean, include myself in it, Dean Brown. And what happens, we need to find someone in a place that is quiet for you, that's free of distractions. And also so that someone can proctor that exam to you. So that 72-hour notice is required. You want to read all assignment directions carefully. It call for a title page. It was worth 5 points. You didn't have a title page, so you can't get those 5 points. So make sure you just read all those directions carefully. All right, so you should have already logged in. You should, in the event that you didn't write down the instructor's information, remember I told you you can go back to that About My Instructor tab, and I'll show you where that is, and that's for all of your courses. You want to download or keep that course syllabus so that you can refer to it before you review your course syllabus, particularly the detailed course outline, and then sign the acknowledgement. You should have done on this already. You want to confirm that you have the correct textbook edition, and we'll look at this once we actually get into the course room, in the course shell. It does not happen often, not happen very often over the last couple of years, but every now and then the person will have the correct textbook, but the edition will be incorrect. I don't know how it happens, but something happened. So what we need to, once we get to that part tonight, you need to check to make sure that your textbooks, and this is for all of your courses, you all, make sure that your edition matches and it is correct. Because if we're telling you to refer to page 16, the graph on page 16, when you turn to page 16, you see just words, there's no graph there, then you can't look at the graph. And so you're going to miss your opportunity to learn more about that concept because you have the incorrect edition. Some editions, there's very little changes, but I wouldn't risk it. If you look and see tonight that your edition does not work, does not match, is not the correct book, you need to send an email to your campus dean. And I want to say they may direct you to a help desk ticket. And it's just no more than just them knowing that you have the incorrect textbook edition, and they respond pretty quickly. They really do respond quickly in troubleshooting and getting us on our right way. Okay, so come to class prepared to discuss concepts, small groups, large groups, just be prepared. Attend any additional review sessions offered by the faculty. Now, we will host exam review one dates here pretty quickly because our first exam is week 4. So this is week 1. And so we will post those review sessions, and there are usually several. At a minimum, if you cannot attend them, at a minimum, commit to going back through your classroom recordings and going back and click those links and review those exam review links. Because we usually, if someone is there, we record, but if no one shows up, a recording is not done. So if a recording is done, we share those links. So at a minimum, commit to actually going back looking through those, because there are 3 or 4 of us and we're talking about the same thing, but we say it in different ways. And in addition to that, the more you hear about a concept or idea, the better you gain understanding. You'll remember it, even if you're not trying to. But we're trying to gain understanding, so that just helps. So meet with the faculty to discuss difficult concepts during our office hours. If those don't work, like I mentioned earlier, send an email or call on the phone. We can talk about that concept. But don't go to week 12 and not have talked about a concept that was difficult or you didn't understand. Schedule tutoring sessions when needed. It's up to you. We do, strongly encourage tutoring sessions if you don't understand the concept, but sometimes you might not have time to actually meet. So send it in an email. Say, hey, have a question about whatever the concept is. I do understand this, but I just have this one little thing I'm having a hard time making a connection with. If you have technical difficulties and you want to contact your technical support, you can let me know, but make sure you go ahead and contact technical support. And like I said, they have been good. ExamSoft, technical support, they've been really good about getting us on our way. Now, I will say, if you all have purchased, and I'll say this again a little bit later on, if you purchased or some way obtained a new computer, you want to make sure that you have to do the practice exams anyways for your courses, but you do want to make sure that you do those practice exams and log into ExamSoft just to make sure that your specifications are going to be correct, because otherwise on exam day, you can't pass go. Okay. So other learning activities, weekly review sessions, they're not mandatory but highly encouraged. So if for any reason, if you have repeated a course or what's those other things? If you had to stop halfway, just go ahead. We highly encourage you to just reach out once a week. And this meeting can be via email. Hey, I think I'm okay this week. I don't have any questions. I'm caught up on all my work. Or hey, I've caught up on everything, but I'm having trouble with looking at my calendar, figuring out, what I need to arrange. Because for those of you that have a class that have clinicals, remember, clinicals is a whole thing by itself. So sometimes just talking through or looking at that calendar, getting a second person to look at your calendar, that helps you figure things out. Sometimes meeting weekly is not really about a concept. Well, I have this thing going on. I just need to talk about whatever it is. So sessions held outside of class time by all instructors, encouraged to attend review sessions of other instructors, which I just said this thing right here. We all talk about the same concepts, but hearing it differently, sometimes it rings a little bell with you. It resonates. You understand it differently or better just by you hearing it by someone else. Now, a lot of times I'll ask you to respond in the chat and send it out to everyone so everyone can see it because believe it or not, hearing or seeing someone else's response, like, well, that does mean the same thing, but I never thought about it in that way. So it solidifies and also strengthens your foundation and your understanding about a concept. Attendance is taken at the review session. So when you log in, you go to Dr. Tenz's review session. It doesn't matter. Just get in the habit of placing your name and campus and then your professor's name in the chat. It helps us help you in the case you start to struggle. We can help identify, some strategies and some things that you might need to do to assist with gaining a better understanding of the concepts. We're almost there, you all, at the top of our first hour. We're almost there. Other learning activities, of course, that one-on-one tutoring. Like I said, this can be in the form of Zoom, email, over the phone. Students that participate actively in these two interventions tend to have higher testing scores, as many as 20 points higher. I've even met with a student and they did all the talking. They just needed me to hear and validate what they were saying or their understanding was correct. So don't be afraid of this meeting, you all. Don't be afraid of it. That's what we're here for. We're not the big bad wolves. We really are here to assist you along, to facilitate your learning and understanding. And remember that bigger picture is you want to provide that best care you can for every patient that you encounter. You want to sit for that NCLEX at one time and move on, and whatever other exams that you have to take. All right, so let's look at this grading thing. So your grades are broken down into two sections. You have homework and then you have all your other stuff. All your other stuff is key graded assignments. So that counts as 80% of your grade. 80% of that, you must have a minimum of 78% without rounding. The same thing applies to this homework. It counts as 20% of the 100%. In addition to that, you must have at least a 78% without rounding in order for this to be valid. So the first component that must be met is this 80% must be at least 78% without rounding in order for us to even consider the homework. Now, what if you have, 78% or greater for this KGA for your exams, your quizzes, and your HESI? Well, this is an automatic pass. Nope. If discussion questions, papers, NCLEX questions, and these case studies and these things are not at 78%, these can drop that 78% that you have here. And so a person can fail a course based on their homework scores. Every point matters, you all. Every point matters. Let's just do our best. Understand the concept. Let's reach out, text me, message, email, reach out one-on-one so we can gain that understanding. Go back through your classroom recordings. Look at your live exam reviews because every point matters. Every point matters. So you have 3 exams, 5 quizzes, and that one HESI. And in order for that HESI score to be valid, to remain in your grade book, you have to complete that remediation. And we'll talk about that. And then your HESI remediation is based on your score. The score equals the amount of time that you must spend with the content. Usually students score really, really high and they don't have to spend that much time. At a minimum, it's an hour. With the content, it may not populate you a lot of packets, but you still need to look at that content. Because remember, the bigger picture is providing that best care, no matter which setting you decide to work in. You want to provide that best care. You want to pass that NCLEX on that first go. All right, we're almost there. Week 1 through 5, the only scores that you will see will be your unit exams and your quizzes. Homework scores will be off. Then week 6, we turn them on. We give you a notice. We put an announcement and say, hey, homework scores are turned on. And it's just to show the impact of your homework on your key graded assignments. Now, if you have not done well on the homework and you're missing homework, you will see that score drop less than that 78%. And then, so either way, you can still see the impact. Week 8, then we turn the homework scores back off, because remember, we just said on that previous slide, this 80% must be at least 78% before this 20% is actually considered. So homework scores will remain off until after the HESI exam. So the HESI score is plotted in there as well. That's part of that key graded assignment. So every point matters. We want to complete all assignments to the best of your ability. Course and assignment grades. Your combined score on all quizzes and unit exams and special exams in the course must be 78% or above before any credit for completed homework is given. A minimum passing grade of a C+, 78% outright, without rounding, is required for a successful completion of the course after the homework scores are added in. There is no rounding, you all. So for your quizzes, you don't have to have 2 devices. For your exams, you must have those 2 devices. In the past, we have let you use the sheet of paper. They're saying that we can't allow that going forward this term. So you can use a dry erase board or that sheet protector. It's that clear paper thing that you can slide papers off in, and you can use that marker to write on. In addition to that, once we log off, before we log off, once you get that check mark and says that your exam has been uploaded, you will need to show that dry erase board or that sheet protector erased. Because when we start with a blank slate, and we should end with the blank slate. Okay, so let's go back. You must have 2 devices for your exams. You want to make sure you have your chargers, because these computers, sometimes they'll be fine, and I don't know what happens. That battery just will drain on you. So make sure you have your 2 devices, your chargers for both. You want to make sure that your computer is fully charged. If you go off camera while in the exam, you will receive a 0 for the exam. No excuses will be accepted. Make sure you have disabled anything that will turn your camera off. There's some settings that you can have where if your computer picks up no movement or inactivity, then it turns the camera off. You want to disable all of those things, because if you go off camera while in the exam, you will receive a 0 for the exam. No excuses. Okay, we're going to pause right here. Make sure we check the chat and see what we got. All right, so let's take our first 5-minute break. So it is what, 9:30. We'll see you back at 9:35 and see you soon. All right. That's about 30 seconds. Well, do you need to go in there? So just as a reminder, these sessions are recorded, you all. I don't know what happens sometimes. Sometimes you'll go on mute and you think you're talking. Sometimes you'll come off mute and you be talking. So just make sure you check your microphones. All right, let's see here. So we left off talking about the two devices, making sure that you have your chargers, making sure that you disable chat, not disable chat, but disable any sessions or settings that will not let you to be able to view a chat. For example, if you're doing the exam and I send you a message, or one of the other professors are usually in the room, they send you a message, and your settings are such that you can't see what we're sending you, you need to disable that because you need to be able to communicate with us and vice versa. Make sure that if you have a setting that turns your camera off, make sure that you disable that. Okay, so quizzes, we talked about they're part of your key graded assignments and they will be completed in class with the proctor. In the event that you see that your quiz is published, you want to ask yourself, am I being proctored? If you're not, don't take that quiz. Quizzes, exams, they must be proctored. Quizzes are designed to begin at the beginning of class to allow us to see, to gain insight as to which concepts that you might be struggling with. So for the first quiz, I think we usually take it at the end because we're still getting in and getting acclimated to what's going on, get everything positioned. So that next week, quiz one will be taken toward the end of class. But going after that, it'll be given at the beginning of class. There's only one attempt at the quiz. Quizzes are timed at 15 minutes for 10 questions, and usually there's always a math question in there. Be sure to submit when your quiz is completed. Quizzes taken off camera, meaning you're not proctored, will result in a 0. Quizzes cannot be made up for any reason. Exams will be scheduled and given through ExamSoft. We will let you know, you'll get that notification when ExamSoft is open, and also when to do your practice exam. You must do your practice exam for all of your courses. And that is to help you to get back in that mode of, looking at that computer, answering those questions, and making sure that, for one, your computer have the specifications that is going to allow you to download your exam and to take that exam. Because if your specifications do not match, ExamSoft will not let you take that exam. Just a word to the wise, if you all are using a loaner computer from your campuses, make sure that you check the specifications. Go back through that practice exam just to make sure that computer that you're given, that you're going to be using is, meets those specifications as well. Because a lot of times those computers are not used that often, and so they're not updated, and so they don't have the latest specifications downloaded on them. So what happens is you get that computer, you checked it out, you get home, you ready for the exam, you can't take the exam because some of the specifications are not allowed, and you don't have the keystroke to allow it because the computer belongs to the school, and it just turns into you not being able to take the exam on that day. So if you are using one of the computers from your campuses, make sure that you run that practice exam on that computer. So those kinks and those things are worked out prior to your exam. You do want to log on with your second device, sign in according to your ExamSoft instructions. I will say, for those of you that this is for any course, if you're changing a course section, for example, you're taking leadership, but you're moving to Friday during the daytime, or vice versa, you move from Friday during the daytime to Monday night. When you log into ExamSoft, make sure that ExamSoft has your correct course section there. Because If you start off in Friday's course and that's what's there, you get ready to take that exam, you can't take the exam because it has you in the wrong section. So you would think, oh, leadership course is a leadership course equals a leadership exam. It's specific to your course section. So any changes, make sure that it follows through. For the most part, it happens. It rolls over like it's supposed to. But every now and then that does happen. Be sure both your computer and your second devices are fully charged. Make sure you have your chargers. And again, like I said, once you submit the exam, you want to wait on the confirmation screen. That's usually when you get the check mark. Do not close up your device because your exam will be lost somewhere in the clouds or somewhere. In addition to that, you have to show your dry erase board or that clear sheet protector. You can also, if you don't have a dry erase board, ask your campus deans if they have one. In addition to that, I know more than likely they will have those clear sheet protectors. So just get you a couple of those. They probably will have them in the library, in that marker, so that you can, that dry erase marker, not a regular marker. Make sure you have that. You are only allowed one attempt. You cannot stop, pause, and resume the exam. If you are having technical difficulties, stop the exam. Notify the instructor. Usually there are 2 of us in every exam session. Please notify us. Don't try to push forward. If you do, just know that that's whatever your end results are, it's because you decided to move forward. No scrap paper is allowed. We talked about that. Use a whiteboard or a protector sheet. That's that clear thing, sheet protector, that can be written on with that marker. The board must be erased at the end of the exam. These exams are timed. You want to make sure you pay attention to your time because they are timed. You don't want to run out of time. Anyone with accommodation needs to notify your instructor every term. Make sure that you submit an email, whatever that accommodation paperwork, so we'll have that on file and we can provide the correct accommodations. Notifications less than 10 days before an exam may not be able to be granted in time. There's a process that must be followed. So if you have accommodations already, go ahead and start sending those emails out to all of your instructors. In the event that you think you might need accommodations, contact your campus deans and see what that application process is about, what documentation is needed. And so exams are held during your scheduled class time. Exceptions only if it's with written approval by your faculty, your campus dean, and then the national online dean, which is Dean Brown. So if you're needing that exam to be proctored on campus, remember your campus dean is the one that's going to assist in finding someone, a space that is free of distractions for you. So we need an email. That email needs to go to your campus dean, Dean Brown, and myself. And this 72-hour notice needs to be remembered because we have to create that exam for you. We have to find a place for you because we want you free of distractions and so that you can do your best on the exam. Not taking the exam during scheduled class time will result in an absence. Lecture time is not able to be made up. So just make sure you communicate early. Just think about, what's going to be going on the day of those exams and at the time of those exams. Do you need that at proctor or, on campus, or will the class time work? Whichever one. The only thing is if you need it on campus proctor, that 72-hour notice has to be adhered to. Exams are on Zoom proctor, just like we're in class now. Must be on camera the entire time. You will have to show your ID, so make sure you have your IDs. You must show your complete testing environment. You must get that 360 view, walls, desktop, size of computers. You want to show everything, floor to the chairs, everything. You must show your ears if they're covered. If a tester has religious exceptions, please ask us to discuss this issue with make sure that you discuss it with us so we know that you have that religious exception as well as any other accommodations. Do not assume that we know. So even if you had, because there's several of us, I think, that teach different courses. We may have had you in a different course. Send it every term. Remind us of it. Send it in writing. Send that email. Even if you move on to your RN courses, I'll see you there. still send that information again. Don't say, well, she probably remembers. So, but I needed to refer to at that moment in time. Missed exams will be held to the late work policy. Exam missed without prior notice will be a 0. Exam missed for personal reasons, which will result in a late penalty with notification. Exams missed due to an emergency will require documentation. Flat tire. Hopefully not nothing going on with your family, no medical emergency, but whatever it is, get that documentation. A flat tire, you're like, well, what documentation? Usually you're gonna have to buy a tire. You're gonna have some type of repair. Someone's gonna repair it. You may can even change your tire out yourself. Take pictures of the tire. Remember, it's time stamped. Unless you get a jack or something that doesn't work. For the most part, we do know most of us can change tires, but every now and then that equipment malfunctions. So take pictures of it. So that's your documentation. This documentation must be submitted to Dean Brown. Notification must occur within 24 hours of the scheduled exam. We know some things happen the moment of within this 24 hours. Please communicate. Please communicate. Have your documentation. Know that we must take this exam within that 7-day window. So we have to take it. Otherwise, it ends up as a 0. Okay. Contact your instructor with issues that may prevent you from being successful on the exam. You've had your computer go out. You've had whatever it is, an issue. And I said issue, but whatever it is for you that fills in that blank that will not allow you to do your best, please communicate prior to taking these exams so that we can work with you. You know, we want you to be successful, but it's going to require communicating, us identifying, well, what's the solution, you know, and then moving forward with whatever the next steps are. This slide just shows your assignment, and then it shows like your instructions. You just want to make sure you click and review and follow the instructions for each of the assignments. Okay, let's go back here. If you're having difficulties doing a quiz or an exam, do not try to continue or try to continue if you're having technical issues. Communicate. In the event that you do move forward, whatever your results are will be your results. You cannot come back and say, well, hey, I wished I would have waited. I'll let you know, that I was having connectivity issues. Notify us at that moment in time. Wait on a response. There are usually 2 of us doing the exam. If we're not responding right off, that means we probably are helping or responding or talking to someone else. Just wait, because we want you to do your best. But if you go through the entire exam and then come back and say, oh, I was having technical difficulties, then you're just going to have whatever score it was. So just wait. Just wait. I know you want to take it on that day and time, but to do your best, we will get up Saturday morning and let you take that exam if we have to, or Sunday evening or whatever, because we want you to do your best. Okay. So things faculty administration will do. Remember, you're going to look at that log. They can see the number of times you clicked on things and looked at things and how much time you was actually there, how many questions you actually looked at. And then we can, sometimes your exams will ask for a reassess code or a resume code. So just let us know whatever it is that it's asking you for. Exams off, that it has this, lockdown, it does this own little thing. So sometimes it'll say, hey, we need to, ask for a resume code to just make sure. So you ask us for it and we give it to you. Things faculty will not do: allow a retake on an exam due to a technical problem or other physical or emotional issue when majority of all the questions have been answered by the student or time has run out. Just let us know, hey, I have a physical issue, I have an emotional issue, I have a technical problem. Like I said, as long as we get it done within that, get it documented, we do get it taken within that 7-day window, and you do your best, that's what we want. Okay, we talked about the HESIs. Week 10, week 11. If you have more than one class, thinking about what week 11 is going to look like for you. That's a conversation you want to have with the campus dean because they're specific by campus. Remember, you select a course, probably more than likely based on the day and the time that it is. But remember, for week 11, HESIs usually are not given this time of night. So for week 11, your schedule is going to be different. Those at tonight's exam, your leadership exam might be on Friday morning. So just make a note as soon as you can start that conversation with your campus dean. Usually around week 9, for sure, by the end of week 9, the campus dean should pretty much know what day their HESIs are going to be. Make sure that you're registered, that you're actually registered for the course. So when you log into Evolve or Elsevier, that you can actually register for the exam and then know when will that exam take place. More than likely, it will not take, if that's for any of your night courses like this late at night, more than likely your HESIs will not be given this time of night. So know that that week is going to look a little bit different for you. So you can plan for family work, and all of those things that you're responsible for. HESI's exams can occur anytime in the HESI week and are scheduled by the campus according to the campus availability. This exam counts as 20% of that 80%. Remember that key graded assignments counted as 80? This HESI counts as 20. Huge piece. And then the benchmark for the exam is 900. I want to say, with the exception of maybe 2 categories, we have been outscoring national. So the reading assignments, the different activities, the in-class activities that we will participate in, that one-on-one, that reaching out, gaining understanding of those concepts, it really shows with these HESI scores, you all. A lot of them are above the 900. And so on the national level, with us outscoring national in more than over half, I want to say maybe like, if it's 3, it may be 3 categories, but it's not many more than that. Remediation is mandatory to receive your HESI score. A lot of times we apply the HESI score in there, but you have to complete the remediation in order for that score to remain valid. Remediation consists of completing 100% of the remediation time. If you score above 900, 1 hour is all that's required. Okay, so it equals the time. Sometimes the Elsevier will not populate a bunch of packets, but you still need to be in there reviewing content. Because remember, I know you're just trying to get it done, but the bigger picture is you providing that best care for your patient, taking the HESI one time and that NCLEX one time and move it on. So that remediation, that continuing reviewing, remember, real life learners as healthcare providers. So we're all the time learning new things anyway. So just keep remediating. Remediation packets are to be submitted by 1 a.m. on Tuesday of week 12, which we will, we have a notification, a reminder of this as well. Failure to complete 100% of your remediation will result in a HESI score of a 0. So just make sure you know what, we usually post this as well, the time requirement so that you can refer back to it. You will need your ID, must be on cameras at all times. Full face must be visible. Failure to show proper ID, photo ID, or not be fully visible at any point may result in the exam or course failure. Make sure you remove all of those watches and anything that's smart. I think that's the word. I don't want to use slang, but any of those devices where you can still receive communications, make sure you remove all of those things. You want to contact your instructor if you're having any problems or would just like any additional help. I will check the chat to make sure not missing any questions. Okay. Aren't y'all excited about this term? It's close to the end for you all. I know most of the time when you all make it to this class, you all are right there at the end or really close. Because I think a lot of you all have capstone and maybe 1 or 2 other courses. But you're almost there. Almost there. Homework assignments. Of course, we talked about this, review your syllabus. Looking at that, looking ahead, organizing. If you need 2 calendars, that's fine. I have a paper calendar and I have an electronic calendar. So just make sure, because even with that, sometimes human error does happen. So make sure you're looking at your syllabus, looking at that modules, and we'll look at it. It is set up by week. Pull your things over so you will know, which weeks you have this, which week is this due. Remember, feel free to turn things in early. At a minimum, those are, that due date is at a minimum. You could always turn in early. That way that's out of your way. We talked about this late work. Please send your email communication letting me know what's going on so that you can get that approval so that that assignment can be graded with that 10% deduction. Remember, late work will not be accepted without prior written approval from the instructor. That's in the email. Approved late work submitted by the student will be graded along with other weekly submissions for the next grading period. Instructors completing grades every week by the Tuesday midnight Mountain time. So if you send an email and you are granted to turn that assignment in late, that does not push all of your other assignments a week back. Those other assignments are still due when they are due. That only applies to that one assignment. So again, this is another slide looking at the assignment and then clicking it so that you can see the full instructions. If it says complete 25 NCLEX questions, make sure you complete those NCLEX, the correct amount. Now, on your own time or outside of an assignment, you do want to go ahead and be looking at extra NCLEX questions. But knowing that you only need to do 25 questions and you do 50, and you get 10 of those right, you're only going to get graded for that 10 that, it's going to be graded appropriately. You won't get a chance to do extras hoping that, that increases a score because only 25 is required, but you do 75 questions. You only will be graded for that 25. And again, remember, commit to not turning in a score less than 78%. Submissions must be the number of questions required on a single submission. Once submitted, the score you submitted will be the score you receive. You can repeat the questions as many times as you like to obtain the highest score and turn in that highest score before you submit is completed. Remember, you're the master and controller of what this NCLEX grade is. Okay? Screenshots are not acceptable for NCLEX questions. Make sure you download the report and then upload it to your assignment tab. So while you're in NCLEX, it gives you a report. Download it to your device so that you can upload it once you log into Canvas so you can turn it in that way. Screenshots are not acceptable. Utilize the course text, online resources referencing the course modules in weeks due. Percentage score applied to the total assignment points available. This means 1 point per question. If you submit the required 25 questions and you have 20 correct, you will receive 20 points or 80%. If you submit 50 questions with 25 correct, you will receive 12.5 points or 50%. There are no bonus points for getting most correct or doing more. So for that assignment, complete the correct amount. On your own time, outside of that assignment, you do want to be completing and looking at NCLEX questions, reading the rationales for the correct answers, and then the rationales is why the incorrect answers are incorrect as well, because both ways you learn. Okay, NCLEX questions again. If the assignment asks for 25 questions, complete a 25 question set. Multiple sets added together is not completing 25 questions. Likewise, do not add more questions hoping to get at least 25 correct. Your score will be the percentage correct that you submitted. You do not get to give 50 pills and hope that 25 of them are the correct ones. So the paper assignments will guide the development of the professional goals relative to the profession. We'll talk about that week 6 assignment. This is another view of looking at the assignment here and clicking on it so that you can get all of the instructions. You want to follow those rubrics. Grade your own work before you turn it in. Look and see, do you have each of these components? Where do you fall? Go back and rework it. Turn it in as best as you can with your best with your finishing touches on it. Unapproved websites. Students using unapproved websites for research on homework will receive a 0 for the first offense. Remember, there's someone out there monitoring these sites, you all. That's real. Upon the second offense, you will be failed from the course. The recommendation to the campus for dismissal. This includes using sites such as Stuco, Course Hero, Quizlet. Stay away from them. If you don't know how to use the resources in that under that resource tab, let us know. And if you don't have it there, you more than likely will need to submit a help desk ticket, and they'll get it on there for you. Tips for papers and discussion questions. Reword it. Do your insight references. Make sure that you cite your sources on the reference page. Make sure they're no more than 5 years old. Even if I know that one paper was that week 6 paper, it asks about, it's your responses, but make sure that you go in, reword, or select a different, because you can select one of the 6 options that it give you. Select a different one. If you've completed a similar or the same assignment, your plagiarism score is going to be high. So make sure that you go in and get you some up-to-date resources. Use some other references. Okay, so to be successful in this course, communicate, let's plan, review sessions, tutoring, read the book, use the course resources, and you want to start prioritizing things because things are going to start moving after this week. For sure, by week 3, you all things just they move, they really do move, especially if you're taking more than one course. If you have that clinical component, so you're going to have to, really revise, delete some things, rearrange some things, and put some things on pause. Because remember, these courses, they don't last forever. And so we want to do your best so that you can have a good, sturdy foundation so that you can provide that best care and pass that NCLEX on that first try and pass all of your courses. Questions for thought. Are you prepared to sit for the exam? What remediation could your online instructor review with you to help you prepare? Like, send that email. What concepts you have difficulty understanding? How will continuity of care once the patient is discharged from acute care facility influence the health care of a client? How does the environment influence? We got to be thinking about these things. We're going to talk about something called, was it situational? I can't think of the last word, but it's that environment. If I'm in a hot environment, if the environment is unsafe, if the environment is noisy, how does that environment, that situation affect my responses as a patient to you as a nurse? If it's a distraction, I'm probably not going to pay the nurse any attention. Or if I'm in pain, those environmental factors, they do play a part. Do the requirements for a nurse change based upon the surroundings they work in? So you want to think about the Nurse Practice Act. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. The Nurse Practice Act tells us those things that we can do, in our state, and it's state specific. So you want to consider as you go through your clinicals, be thinking about the settings and all the different tasks that person can complete in that setting. Are these things that you want to do personally? Do you have a personal issue with it? And sometimes our personal ethics, they do collide. So be thinking about that. And then what is a nurse's accountability when you're on duty and off duty? Is there such a thing? So we'll talk about that. Just some food for thought. I think that was our last slide. And it was. All right, so let's move to our course shell here. Looking in the chat. Don't see any messages, so we will keep on moving. Let's see here. Where's our course shell at? Okay, I'm going to share my screen so we can see. So we have our announcements here. And let's see, modules are here. And this is where It's hidden in here, right here. So if you forget how to contact any of us, in whatever course you're in, this tells you quickly. If you forget, our email or whatever, it's here. All right. And so we can look at our syllabus here in a moment too. So these modules are listed out week by week. And so this matches your syllabus too. It has all this information there. So we're in week 1. So you have a discussion question that's due. Your initial post is by Wednesday. And then your other 2, at minimum, your 2 peer responses are by Sunday. Let's look here. Professional development plan instructions. This thing is not due until week 6. But you need to go ahead and click this tab and start looking at what's required. What's in here? I got to complete a self-assessment. And then I need to identify and outline the next steps for my personal and professional development. So we want to look at this NAPNS, this standards of practical and educational competencies here. And you're going to look at each of these and you select one to write about. And then here you want to give examples. So if you've completed a similar or the same assignment, you want to get different examples this time. You don't want to plagiarize yourself. So start looking at this. This is not due until week 6, but it's open so that you can start looking at it and plan it because it's kind of a big project. Okay, then next week we do have our first quiz. You have another discussion question, and then remember you always have like your overview, and then you're going to have your required readings. Okay, and these are the main concepts that will be listed there. So next week we have quiz, exam. The week that we have exams, we do not have quizzes. Then right here, after that first exam, you all, we have 1 week. We meet 1 week because we have a quiz that week. And then we have an exam that next week. Our second exam is in week 6. So in our announcements, we did post the exam schedule here. So you can just have it's the same information that's on your modules, but it's just a different view. So exam 1 is that week 4. Exam 2 is week 6. Exam 3 is in week 10 and 1. Week 4 and 10 are when, if you have more than one class, a lot of times those exams fall within those same weeks. And then of course the HESIs, you're gained from Monday through Friday, and be reminded that your HESI might not be on the day of that you actually had the class. Okay, let's see what else we got in here. Have all kind of references, academic integrity. Make sure that you're reading through those. Let's go ahead and look at your syllabus here. So you can download this. Get this from over here. Let's make this larger here. Okay, there we go. All right, and so this information is listed also in your modules. Just a different view. So right here, you all, make sure that your book matches what your syllabus shows. So you're going to look here on your syllabus. It says 10th edition. When you go over to your resources, your learner resources, under that module tab, make sure that all of these match. Remember we were talking about that on the PowerPoint to make sure your edition match. Because every now and then, like I said, it hadn't happened that many times. And for some reason, it will have a different edition than what's listed on your syllabus. So it should match what's on this syllabus. All those resources there. All right, so let's move forward here. Let's see what we got. Any questions about navigating the course shell in Canvas? Okay, so we're going to look at the evolution of nursing. We're going to look at chapters 4 and 12. What this is talking about right here. All right, well, let's do just a little discussion here. Let's see. I'm going to try to be quiet while we look at these. Let me see how many slides there are there. Okay, we have 14 slides. Oh, the first one is just a slide with a title slide. Okay, so I'm going to try to talk to the minimum because we're going to review the information in a minute, but I want you to check your prior knowledge or your new knowledge that you've already gained from looking at your course shell already. You've already looked at week 1. Let's see where we're at. Let's see, slideshow from the current slide. Okay. Effective form of communication allows the client to express their wishes and have their preferences taken into consideration. We have effective and then we have ineffective communication. They're the opposite. Ineffective communication blocks or limits communication. So, in addition to ineffective communication, blocking or limiting communication, it also blocks what the client wants to express as their wish. They may want the blinds open. They may want to take their bath on the second shift. They may want, I don't know, extra coffee at lunch. So ineffective communication blocks them communicating to us what their wishes and their preferences are. Okay. Any questions or concerns about effective versus ineffective communication? Okay, we got it. One allows the person to communicate. The other one, it stops it. It's like ineffective communication is like a stop sign. All right, so here we go. Y'all didn't say you had any questions, so I am going to be quiet. In the chat, I need you to put E or I. You should have 2 letters. The first letter, do you want this to be effective communication or ineffective communication? Then your second letter, is this effective or ineffective? So, and send it out. Just, you can send it to me. It doesn't matter. So read each. Let me set us a little timer. Let's give us 2 minutes. You should have 2 letters in the chat. Put the first letter goes with this one. The second letter is this one. Of course, the letter matches ineffective and ineffective. Effective and ineffective. All right. And the time starts now. Pull the little timer up. Read through. Is the first scenario of, okay, let's see. Is it an example of effective communication or ineffective communication? Let's see what y'all saying. I was a little slow with my time, you all, so it's about up. Uh-oh. Let me stop sharing. Go to my little chat here. Let's see. Go back to everybody. So I should have 2 letters, y'all. I don't see 1 letter. So what'd you put for number 2? Okay, some of you all did put, okay. You responded twice. Got it. Okay. All right. So let's look at this together. So you eat just enough to keep butterflies and pigeons. Keep a butterfly and pigeon. So remember, these things are not politically correct. It's stuff that I've made up. So sometimes I type and then I'm typing faster than or slower than what I'm thinking. So this is a nurse talking to the patient. And the nurse says, or the healthcare provider says, that was our little timer. You only eat enough to sustain a butterfly or a pigeon. You got to eat more. Is this effective? Would this statement allow us to, let's go back. Uh-oh. Trying to go back. Can we go back? Okay. Will that, we just said effective communication. Will that statement allow us or allow the client, the patient, to express their wishes and have their preferences taken into consideration? Or will that statement block or limit or stop or shut down communication? Because that's what we said ineffective was. So that's how we take what we know. We know what a concept is. How do we apply it to the situation? That was just a test taking tip. It's a little work thing that we just did. Okay. And most of you all said that was ineffective communication. It's right here. we kind of like making fun of our patient. We don't really probably mean any harm, but we don't want, we're limiting communication. That patient's going to shut down. And it's a different way that we can say this. Let's see. I noticed you did not eat much again today. Is there something else you would prefer for each of your meals? And you all said that was effective. So let's go back and test it again. That last statement would allow the client to express their wishes because we asked. We said, hey, we did make notice of what we actually saw, but then we asked, right, is there something else you would prefer? Got it. All right. Let's move us over here. Okay, so think about what assertive is and what non-assertive is. And in the chat, put an A or N. And we'll give you, let's do a minute. Is the following statement an example of assertive or non-assertive? I believe it is better for the client if close family and friends would visit more often. This would lead to more social interaction. Is this assertive? Respond in the chat. Is it an A or N? What in the world? So in order to answer this, we have to know what the concept is. So you got to spend time with the required readings to know, well, what in the world is assertive and non-assertive? Okay, let's see what you all are saying. Most of you all are saying we're getting assertive. All right, let's see. I believe we're correct. I thought I had the correct slide next, but yes, it is assertive. So with assertive, we're being honest. We are, it may seem like, we are, being in the patient's business, but no, we are suggesting a solution, and a solution is we've identified that there's an issue. And sometimes it is just having those close family members or those friends visit more often so that patient can have that social interactions, because sometimes it takes a while in these facilities the patients before they warm up to the staff. And after so long, you're the next best thing since, chocolate milk or whatever. And so, but initially, in that social interaction, it is a part of us. We do need that social interaction. We may not need the same amounts, but it is something that we need. So this would be assertive. We are being honest and we're providing a solution. We're not demeaning or degrading the patient. Okay. Who does what? And the who is the OPN and the RN. Who does what? I'm gonna let you, and you just jot this on your paper. We'll give you a minute, probably a minute and a half for this one, Wow. So look at each one of them and say, and put down R or L. Who formulates a nursing diagnosis? Who initiates all health teaching? Who reinforces health teaching? Who completes that mission assessments? Is it the R or the L? Who can be a nursing supervisor in an acute care facility? On your paper, jot it down. R or L. And then who can be that nursing supervisor at a long-term care facility? Who does what? Okay. Waiting on our timer. On your paper, jot it down. How many are there? 6 of them. So you should have 1 through 6. You have an R or an L. Okay. I think we have 30 seconds left, but I believe that's enough time. Let's see. What did we do? Okay. So remember that registered nurse, they formulate those nursing diagnoses. No, we use NAN. So we go in and we do that head to toe assessment. We're getting subjective and objective data. And so that helps us to come up with that nursing diagnosis. The RN initiates that health teaching. The LPN reinforce. So test taking tips, make sure that you're reading through the entire scenario and the entire answer choice, because this one word, initiates and reinforce, can change that whole thing. Because LPNs don't initiate health teaching, but we come in and we can reinforce it. Who completes the admission assessments? The registered nurses. Then who can be a nursing supervisor at the acute care facility? The registered nurses. Who can be the supervisor at a long-term care facility? See that one word, acute and long, it changes the whole setting. Okay, good. Hopefully you did well, but we're just checking our knowledge for week 1. We're gonna go back through it though in more detail. Okay, true or false? And someone come off mute this time. Tell me, read this statement and tell me whether or not you think it's true or false.
Sexual harassment is the unwanted sexual references, either directed towards one from another or overheard in workplace between others, that make one feel uncomfortable and interferes with the ability to work. True.
We agree. It is true. So it is not only someone actually physical, but if they're verbally saying things or if it's overheard, it is considered sexual harassment. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing. The LPN is reinforcing follow-up care for a patient. A take-home folder. We get those discharge instructions. They give you that little folder, or now they don't even put it in the folder, they just staple it together. That patient is receiving those discharge instructions from the local urgent care. And those instructions include information about healthy food selection, ways to increase their physical activity, or it could be about whatever they came to see the doctor for that day. Blood pressure's up, sugars have been out of range, headache, whatever it is, but they're receiving instructions, information to take home, read, reinforce, and to change, hopefully for the better. What does this information address in a larger picture? What's taking place here? Hopefully the patient does what with these instructions? Should their knowledge base increase after receiving these instructions and having these instructions? Come off mute. Should their knowledge base or their understanding increase? Should their learning increase? So what's happening here? The instruction serves as a purpose of doing what? Teaching the person. And hopefully that they learn from those instructions. Usually we think of just verbal exchange and teaching, but nonverbal. We have these take-home instructions. And hopefully that person learn, they can refer back to. So these discharge instructions, this folder or these paper staple, and even now they have some videos where they can send you a link that you can go back in and look at these instructions. But the whole idea is that that patient is being taught and that they're learning new behaviors or how to manage their care. So teaching and learning is what that whole scenario is about. All right, so here it is. I'm going to need you to go back to that sheet of paper again. You're probably going to need 2 minutes for this one. So again, we're trying to check our knowledge, our prior knowledge or our new knowledge that we've learned this week from our required readings. So we want to think about the S bar. Which part is being addressed in the example? So we have admitting diagnosis, date of admission, discussing the patient's goals of care, the reason for the call, orders that need to be addressed, procedures that must be done, lab or x-rays to be reported. What you think is going on based on the data findings. For example, you're saying, well, I think this is life-threatening. I think, this person, they're reporting this, but what is it that you think is going on based on those findings? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we have 8. Beside each of these, so number your paper 1 through 8, put a S, B, A, or R. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Let me mute myself so I won't interfere with your thinking. So recall what the S bar stands for, and then place the S, B, A, R by each. Yeah, I know I have a hard time with this. So think about what the S, which each letter represents, then apply it to each of these situations. So our situation is we're communicating what the patient's admission diagnosis is. So which category, which letter does that fall up under? We're communicating what the patient's date of admission is. Which one of these does it fall up under? Okay, 1 minute, 38 seconds. I'm gonna move on. We have 40 seconds left, but we're almost at our next break. So let's see how did we do. Okay. So the admitting diagnosis and date of admission, all that's part of that patient's background. Okay. Um, so how do we do, you all? Which one did you struggle with? You tell me which one you struggle with. Come off mute and tell me, did you struggle with the recommendation, with the situation? Okay, so let me flip my question. So how do you understand what the situation is? What if you were trying to communicate or tell your coworker, well, hey, this is what a situation is. What examples or what explanation would you give them? So come off mute and someone tell me. Hello, are you there? Explain or give a definition of what a situation is, other than the reason for the call. What's another way we could reword this? I see y'all there. I'm not hearing you. Are you on mute? Let me see. Let me stop sharing. Let me see your names. So situation, you were trying to explain what a situation was, Miss Martin. What would you say? Remember, this is your safe space. Even if you get it incorrect, we're gonna help you. Claudia, what would you say if you were explaining to someone what a situation was?
Um, it's like how to address the problem.
So it is the reason, it is what the problem is why you're calling. Right? So it's the reason. So it is your why. Why are we making this phone call? Why? Because remember, the S bar helps us to communicate in a structured way. So why are we calling? Why are we calling the doctor for this patient in room 201? It is our reason. It is our why. It is what has happened. It's still that situation. Like I say, we can reword what a situation is, but it still ends up to being, the reason we're picking up that phone call, or the reason some facilities have like the email system or whatever. It is the reason why we're trying to communicate. Well, some examples would be, it could be, hey, this person spiked the fever. This patient was given the wrong medication. So the situation or what is going on is, hey, this person received the wrong medicine. We need to let this doctor know. This patient has an abnormal lab value. It is the reason, it is the purpose. It is why we're picking up that phone call, making that call, and that having that communication. So what about background? What is background? Why is that important? Or is it important? Is
It's
it?
just like the overview of the patient's history, medical history, family history, medications, everything from, that it's coming with the patient already.
Exactly. It is important that we have a background and know this person has hypertension or never had hypertension, but now we see that they have high blood pressure measurements. That background, that history of that patient is important. It's important right now. It's important that they have a history of urinary tract infections, or they have a history of um, glucose is being uncontrolled, being non-compliant. All of that is we need to know that information now, because it's part of that background. All right, so let's pause. Let's take our 5-minute break, and we'll push our last 15 minutes toward the end. All right, see you in 5. And you all remember that these, even during the breaks, we're still recording. So make sure that you're on mute, turn your cameras off, and I just want to make you mindful that we still record during the break. All right, let's finish on up. So remember, S bar is just a structured way. So when we are communicating, we don't leave anything out. Why are we calling? What's going on? What's not right? Usually we're calling because something's not right. Something has happened. So that's usually the situation. And we do need to know that patient's background. It is important. They might not have a urinary tract infection right now, but we do need to know that there's their background. Maybe that's what brought them into the hospital. It has resolved, but we still need to know that that's their background. We do need to know that they have hypertension, they're diabetic, or have previously broken a hip. All of that background. Okay. And then what are those assessment findings? What are we, based on our head to toe assessment, the subjective and objective data that we have received, what is our assessment? Is this patient, is what's going on with them life threatening, or is it not life threatening? And then what's that recommendation? Discussion of the patient goals of the care, orders that need to be addressed. So let's put this into, give some examples here. So orders that need to be addressed. For example, this patient has hypertension. So we checked their blood pressure and it was low. Their blood pressure medicine is due now or due within an hour. That information needs to be brought and say, hey, do we really need to give this medication as scheduled? Or do we need to check this blood pressure and have some parameters on administering it? So those orders need to be addressed. If the patient's blood pressure is high and their blood pressure is not, medication is not due again for another 8 hours. So do we need to, those orders need to be addressed, and probably more than likely they're going to change. Lab or x-ray orders, lab and x-ray reports, you have received a lab result. So be careful when you are taking those phone calls. Hey, this is lab. I'm calling to report the patient in 201. They have their hemoglobin is, their, white count is whatever. And so we want to make sure that we are reporting that information. And also, what is the recommendation? They had this lab done right now. For example, someone that comes in for a heart attack that's complaining of chest pain, they may think that they have a heart attack. That's some lab that they have to repeat every so often to either validate that this person is having a heart attack or validate that they're not having a heart attack. What is that recommendation? So we're going to talk more about the ISBAR. So let's talk for a moment about concerns with the present nursing shortage. And when we're talking about those concerns, let's talk about, do you think if with the present nursing shortage, so what that means is there's not enough nurses based on the patients. Do you think the stress level is high or low among the nurses because there is not enough nurses? What do you think? So come off mute and just tell me. Is the stress level high or low?
High.
Okay. If there's a nursing shortage, do we think the nurse to patient ratio is high or low? And what I mean
High.
high or low, go ahead.
I think it's high. If
High.
it's a shortage.
If it's a shortage, you have this one nurse to have all of these patients, a high number of patients, and that's usually what happens. What about patient safety? Is it affected by a nursing shortage, or it doesn't matter? Everyone's going to be safe.
I think it can affect it.
It can affect it because if we're that one nurse have these 10 patients, we may not haven't even completed our first round to make sure that that call light isn't reached, that bed is in the lowest position, so that we can check those vital signs like we're supposed to see if that blood pressure is high or low, or that glucose is high or low. So yes, it presents to be an issue. It can affect it. All right. So any questions about the information that we've just went over? So we were just checking on our prior knowledge there. So let's look at chapters 12 and 4 real quick here. Let's see here. The evolution of practical nursing. And then we have, what's the other one? It is the nursing process. So nursing has evolved from the amount of time it takes, or from just being licensed. Initially, it wasn't even a licensure process, but the requirements and the obligations and the duties were not the same either. But that person was still considered a nurse. The training part. So after licensing, the nurse would be permitted to perform the job role of the LPN as aligned by those state regulations. So if you end up with that multi-state license, you still have to practice according to your state Nurse Practice Act in that state. So it's not a one size fit all. So each state has their own Nurse State Practice Act, and you're licensed in that state. If you're not licensed in a state, that doesn't mean that your license is not a one size fit all. You can't drive from Florida to Alabama unless you're licensed in those states. You have to have license in those states. Most state regulations stipulate that the LPN work under the supervision of the RN. And then with this right here in some states is within a 24-hour time frame. So in most long-term care facilities, this RN has been in the building for 8 hours. But the rest of the hours, there's not a registered nurse there. So as long as that person is available and have been there at least those 8 hours to assess those patients. So the first schools of nursing, bar. So, of course, was founded in Germany. Florence Nightingale was one of the students. She's known as the founder of modern nursing. And then she actually established a school of nursing in England. Now, her core beliefs were perfection of mankind. Nursing is a sacred calling. Is more than, it's more than, hey, this 9 to 5. You have to sometimes be on committees and think about, and work out ethical situations. You have to think about, well, hey, do we want to cross that strike line? Do we want to go on strike? There's so many moving parts to that, but it is a respectful, one of the most respected professions. So the early training schools, and this building actually still exists right here in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Infirmary, it still exists in Pennsylvania, but I don't think it's used as a hospital, but that building actually is there. So as the nursing shortage continued, hospital-based schools of nursing emerged. So initially, the schools of nursing were located in hospitals. And I'm seeing that trend come back in style where hospitals, because there's such a shortage. And so what hospitals are thinking, well, hey, we'll grow our own. Now the classroom, the work doesn't change. The coursework doesn't change. It just means that hospital has that school located, or that's their main point, their main hub. So that's how it started off. Like I said, I'm seeing that trickle back in. So initially, courses lasted 3 months, you all, but it focused on home health care for the chronically ill, elderly, and children. It did not consider the rest of the population as we do now. So that 3-month training, you were trained to be a nurse. And there was not a certification process to that as well. Wasn't an NCLEX then. Today, all states require mandatory licensure for nurses, including practical nurses. So, task differentiation. We need to know these phrases that are used to describe our scope of practice. Think about all the things we do: administer medications. We, empty Foley catheters. We insert dwelling Foley catheters. We do head-to-toe assessments. Think about all these things we do. So what they said was, all of those things fall under these 4 categories: judge, appraise, recognize, and determine. Those are the four phrases that are used to describe our scope of practice. Those things that we can lawfully do. So this is just how they moved to, they used to have different levels of nursing. That's all this one is talking about. And so in order to decrease the nursing shortage, they opened up the associate's nurse, the diploma nurse, but now they're just having two. So LPN employment moved from the hospitals to the community. Now you see nurses, LPNs working in long-term care facilities, home health. They put that NCLEX on the computer. Now, hadn't been that long ago, but before then, you would go there in person, get your paper out, paper and pencil. It was brick and mortar. So that first computerized test was, of course, you still go, but it was paper and pencil. But now it's computerized. So then, as time has went along, that COVID-19 pandemic, it has put a strain on the healthcare workforce because we know more nurses retired during that time frame. They even had this thing where they were going to, what do you call that? I guess pay their license if they had been retired. They would pay for their recertification or their application to reactivate their license because there was such a shortage. So many people were sick then. So that in itself just put a strain on. And then it also was like a reality check for some people. They're like, well, hey, this is not what I want to do. Started off in nursing and I changed. Now let's look at the other. Let's look at the nursing process. So we have those 5 steps called ADPOP. What does that represent, you all? Trying to share my screen. What are those 5 steps of the nursing process? Gotta know. What are they, you all? 5 steps of the nursing process. So that nursing process, we have those 5 steps, and we always refer to it as ADPI. It provides an organized way to identify and respond to that client's needs within our scope of practice. So we can provide that individualized care. So we're gathering data. So both the LPN and the RN, we both gather data. But then the nursing diagnosis comes from the RN using that NANDA list. We're not talking about a medical diagnosis, we're talking about a nursing diagnosis. So then planning collaboration with the RN, we do the intervention, we implement, and then during the evaluation, we discuss, well, hey, did this work? Did this not work for this patient? So the RN functions independently in all 5 steps of the nursing process. The LPN acts in an independent role in data collection and implementation. So while the LPN is not an independent practitioner, the LPN acts in an independent role doing these 2 steps, these 2 roles right here, the data collection. Remember, this is that SNO, the subjective and objective data. That's our head-to-toe assessment. And an implementation. We administer the medications. We insert the Foley catheter. We give that IM injection. The LPN has a dependent role in planning and evaluation, but we're more independent in data collection and implementation. Okay. So someone read through this slide for
me. Gathering data, subjective, objective, verify data, compare with the medical records, especially when not congruent. Always communicate the information to appropriate care team members document appropriately.
Okay, so we're gathering that data. We're doing our assessment. Someone read this right here. What could prevent us from gathering necessary or needed data? Have a volunteer to read, please. Believe it or not, there are things that prevent us from being able to gather data. It could be not enough time. It could be that the patient is focused on something, their cultural, whatever it is that they want to focus on, which we might not know that that's important. And as a result of that, not having that therapeutic relationship with our patient and understanding and being culturally competent, it can prevent us from collecting data from that patient. That patient may be non-compliant because whatever they believe their cultural beliefs are is important to them, and we're not abiding or acknowledging them, then they may just shut down on us. Okay. Goals and outcomes, they need to be measurable, realistic, and time reference. We have to know those three things. For goals and outcomes, we need to make sure that they're realistic, that they're attainable. And then how tells us how we will know the outcome has been reached. What is that measurement that we will gauge or match or determine whether or not this has been met? For example, blood pressure would be at least 120/80. That's a measurement that we can compare what their blood pressure is. And then time reference. Okay, nursing diagnosis, nursing problem, outcome. This is just another way of just putting a scenario all together. We're collecting data. We're going to check the intake. We need to know how much fluids that they actually drink. Was the glass empty, halfway empty? Was it the smaller glass or the larger glass? Because we are calculating the amount of fluids that they actually consume. So NANDA has that systemized taxonomy where they have everything listed out. We say the person needs assistance with ADLs. I think NANDA says self-care deficit, bathing, dressing. It goes through each of those things. So now let's look at these different types of care plans. So when the facilities buy that product, for example, we click on hypertension. Everything you can think of for hypertension is populated there. It's under that standardized care plan. But we want the care plan individualized for the patient that's in room 201, the patient that's in room 107. We want it individualized. Even though both of those patients might have hypertension or diabetes, we still want to make sure it is individualized, that is tailored to meet their specific needs. Okay. All right, so let's do one more activity before we go. We have 3 more minutes. Let's make good use of our time. Let's see here. I had it pulled up here. You all don't be afraid to read and respond in class. Now, this helps you gain understanding. We're here. We're not gonna let you go without correction if needed. Well, where'd it go? I had us a Kahoot pulled up. Oh, here it is right here. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let's learn. I found out this new component to Kahoot. Let me share my screen. You tell me what to select because we need to know who does what. Okay. What this little thing is right here. Okay. The LPN should report recognized findings to the RN. Is that true or false? We're gonna skip that one. Okay. Oh, it's not gonna let us skip
It's true.
it. Okay. Got it. Implementation is carrying out the orders, is doing, is administering that medication. It is emptying that Foley catheter. Is this implementation?
True.
Uh-oh. RN and LPN both carry out orders independently.
False. I think.
Remember, they both do for implementation. Remember, implementation is what we just said was carrying out orders. So remember, are doing. So don't let the words mean the same. Carrying out orders, doing what the order says, implementation, they mean all the same thing. So they both do. Because remember, when we're there giving medication, is RN going to be there? More than likely not. We've gotten our license now. We're not talking about doing clinical. We've gotten our license. They both do orders independent. There are 2 times that the LPN functions more independently. Implementation, that's carrying out the orders, and what's the other time? Assessment. Okay, during planning, the LPN collaborates with the RN. Is this true or false?
True.
Okay. About 2 more, you all. 3 more. The LPN uses NANDA. The LPN uses NANDA to formulate nursing diagnosis. Who uses that NANDA list? Is the LPN or the RN?
The RN, so it's false.
Got it. Good. The RN gathers information during the assessment. The LPN gathers data dependently. So does the LPN require the RN to be there to gather, to do her head-to-toe assessment?
False.
So make sure you're reading through and seeing what that question is actually asking you. All right, so that's it. You all make sure that you go back through this recording. Remember, our quiz is next week. First quiz 1. Have a good night. So fast forward through all the orientation stuff. Make sure you get the content.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.